King Saul was not a good king and had disobeyed God's laws. This made God very unhappy. God told Samuel that he had chosen a new king to replace Saul. God said, "I regret making Saul king because he has turned away from me and disobeyed my commands." Samuel was very sad to hear this. He cried and prayed to God all night, hoping God would change his mind. 1 Samuel 15:11. But God knew what was best for his people. So Samuel went to Saul the next morning and told him that God was taking the kingdom of Israel away from him because of his sins. Samuel then returned to his home in Ramah, and Saul went back to Gibeah. Samuel never saw Saul again, but he continued to mourn for him. One day, God said to Samuel, "How long will you mourn for Saul? I have rejected him. Go to Jesse in Bethlehem. I have chosen a king from among his sons." 1 Samuel 16. Samuel was afraid Saul might kill him if he found out he was anointing a new king. God told him to take a cow and say he was going to Bethlehem to make a sacrifice. So Samuel did as God said. He invited Jesse and his sons to join him for the sacrifice. Samuel started with Jesse's oldest son, Eliab, but God told Samuel this was not the one he had chosen. God said, "Do not look at his appearance or height. I have rejected him." The Lord does not see as man sees. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Jesse called 7 of his sons before Samuel, but God had not chosen any of them. Samuel asked Jesse if he had any more sons. Jesse said, "The youngest David is out tending the sheep." Samuel said, "Send for him. We won't sit down until he arrives." So Jesse sent for David, and when he arrived, God told Samuel, "Anoint him." This is the one. Samuel took the oil and anointed David, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon him from that day on. Saul had disobeyed God, so God removed his spirit from Saul. Saul was troubled by an evil spirit, and his servants suggested finding someone to play the harp to make him feel better. Saul's servants found David, and Saul sent for him. David came and served Saul. Saul loved David greatly, and David became his armor bearer. Whenever the evil spirit troubled Saul, David would play his harp, and Saul would feel better. David was young when God chose him to be the next king. Even though Saul remained king for several years, David eventually became king after Saul died. David became king of Judah, 2 Samuel 2. 4. And later, over all Israel. David began his reign at 30 years old and ruled for 40 years.